What are you announcing today?
Well, in celebrating 25 years of incredible progress at the Gates Foundation, I'm committing that my money and the money in the foundation will all be spent over the next 20 years to the causes that we work on. Global health being the biggest, education being the second biggest. Basically, things that we treat lives as having equal value. I'm super excited that that'll be over 200 billion that we'll give away during that time period, and that we'll be able to save tens of millions of lives.
And you're not going to miss it.
No, I won't. I hope I'm still alive when we finish the 20 years, but I'll save a little bit to be able to buy hamburgers as much as I need.
Why are you doing it now?
Well, I think it's important to double down on the great success we've had. I didn't know when we got started how much progress we'd make. I saw the tragedy of over 10 million children dying every year. I saw that the vaccines that could save those lives were being given to rich kids who were not at risk and not to the kids in other countries. And so we've been able to make sure that vaccines that stop you dying of diarrhea or pneumonia and other diseases are now getting out to almost all of those kids. And that's why we've gone from 10 million children dying every year to under 5 million children dying every year. And we can do more.
But why double down now? I know you say you're optimistic about the future, but one could look at this change in your approach and think, is he worried? Is he panicked?
Well, whenever you create a foundation, you can decide that it should last forever, but then saying, okay, who's in charge, and will it stay true to the things I want it to focus on? By deciding to spend all this money in the next 20 years, we can get a lot more done. And after that, there'll be other very wealthy people who can understand what the problems are, what's still left over. So we're giving a lot of certainty and doubling down because of the success. In a way, it's wild that somebody can have as much money as I do.
It is wild.
So I'm lucky to say, okay, let's make sure those who are the poorest are the most in need, kind of an equity, value-driven approach that I got from my parents, that's I'll be able to watch over, making sure that money is very well spent.
So I guess what I was driving at is there's no particular worry or fear or concern of yours right now that's leading to this decision.
Sad that 5 million children die every year. I'm sad that some of the causes, like helping to buy vaccines for children, now it looks like we'll be able to raise less money now than we did in the past, because the U.S. At least is tentatively not supporting buying those vaccines, and other countries in Europe that have always been substantially more generous are also cutting back as they have budget tightness. I will say, despite the challenges we have right now, which are huge and surprising, I'm very optimistic about the progress we can make over the next 20 years. The next 5, there will be setbacks because of these cutbacks, but we'll get, and so the number 5 million might go up for a bit, which shouldn't happen. It's terrible, but over time we'll get that number down even below 3 million.
But I heard something in the middle of that answer, which it sounds like in part you're doing this because you're looking at the world and you're looking at this country and they're doing less. So the Gates Foundation and other foundations do more.
Well, you always want more money going into these things where you're saving lives for a few $1,000s. I mean, if people could actually visit and go to a malaria ward and see those children, they would buy bed nets. If you saw a hospital like one in a part of Mozambique called Gaza, the money that stopped mothers from giving HIV to babies was cut off because of some confusion there. And, that's just an incredible tragedy. So I'd be doing this even if others were being generous. I want to make sure the money is spent as soon as possible. I view these things as urgent. In parallel with that, I'll always be an advocate that governments should, we never asked for more than 1% to go to helping the poorest. I think, cutting, when you're well below that 1%, cutting that, I think is, doesn't reflect the values I think we should stand for.
So you think America doesn't currently reflect the values it should be standing for?
No, I think the U.S. shouldn't be cutting the money for vaccines or HIV medicines. And I'll be an advocate that, what was done now over 20 years ago. President Bush created a lot of these programs for HIV, malaria, and some other things that should be maintained.
What's it been like working with the Trump administration? I know you recently had dinner with the president. Did anything come out of that?
Yeah, so I talked to him about work on HIV and the great innovations, and encouraged him the same way he had helped the COVID vaccine get done quickly. I said, hey, let's work together to get what's called an HIV cure done sooner. I talked about polio. We're close. That we stay committed, we could get that done in the next 4 or 5 years. So, it's a great discussion. Since then, some of the programs have been cut off, and I'm hoping both with the president or the Congress to get them to restore some of those aid activities.
If they don't, is the Gates Foundation large enough to take the place of what the government had been doing?
Not at the government money here is over 4 times, even now at this high level where we're spending down over the 20 years. The U.S. government's very big, bigger than one individual. So their money for global health was 4 times what the Gates Foundation
So if this money goes away, and you were talking about millions of lives saved, can you put a number on the lives potentially lost?
Yeah, absolutely. So we should be going from 5 million children dying a year over the next 5 years to 4 million. And now with these cuts, if they're not reversed, we'll go to over 6 million dying. So instead of going down, we'll go back up.
Oh, wow. So it's a difference of 2 million lives.
Absolutely. These vaccines, the HIV medicines, preventing mothers from infecting their babies, the impact of this money has been miraculous. And the good news of going from the 10 million to 5 million, it's too bad people don't realize that in the U.S., their government's generosity, in Europe, their government's generosity, partnering with us and others, has been why we've had a greater reduction in childhood death than ever in history of the world, was this magic period.